right, welcome back to this session of Bible Deep Dives. It's the day after Easter that I'm recording this, and this weekend we're getting right back into the letter of Paul to the Philippians, looking at only 4 verses, but they're really solid verses, and we're going to really try to figure out what is this text saying before we get into the commentaries and before we start writing anything. So my goal for today is to help us to understand these 4 verses, and so that you can start really thinking deeply for Sunday, as well as learn how to break down especially letters in the New Testament and what they mean. I haven't done a real good job of explaining a lot of my method and how I think about what's called bracketing here, or arcing it sometimes is called. So I'm going to try to explain it a little bit more as I go here, but I am planning on going through a series of videos to teach you exactly how do these break down, and what does every relationship mean, and you'll see what I mean as we go through here. So the thing that we're really looking for here is something called propositions. I'm not talking a preposition, but a proposition. And a proposition is something that, it's simply a statement that says something about something, okay? So we want to break down our text into units of propositions. Sometimes propositions are easy to just, start cutting out and easily identifiable. Sometimes propositions are difficult because there is an implied proposition, and we'll see some here today. And so really what we're doing is we are hunting for propositions. We're looking for subjects and predicates and all that kind of stuff. And I know that that's old school English, but it's really, really important. And I'm probably not going to use those words, subject and predicate, but we want to make sure that there is a verb and that there is something in a statement that is doing an action, or that the statement is about something, and in that something is happening. That's a lot of somethings, but let's break this down. So verse 27, only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that whether I come to you and see you or am absent, I may hear of you that you are standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel, and not frightened in anything by your opponents. This is a clear sign to them of their destruction, but of your salvation, and that from God. For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake, engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Okay, it's proposition time. Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ. I'm going to say that's one proposition. We could say only let your manner of life be worthy. Well, worthy of what? Of the gospel of Jesus Christ. However, of the gospel of Jesus Christ is not independent enough to be its own proposition. So this is all going to be one. A sentence or a statement of something couldn't just be of the gospel of Jesus Christ, but only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ. So that, okay, we're already looking at a purpose statement here, whether I come and see you or am absent, we're going to make a break there, because or am absent implies I am absent from you, so therefore that's a preposition in itself. So that whether I come and see you, and I'm not going to make a break between come and see you, because the see you is linked too closely to whether I come. And the idea is whether I come and see you or am absent. That is that's the alternative there. So that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you. Okay, that is a proposition, that he hears of them. And this is what he hears of them, that they are standing firm in one spirit. That's a proposition. They're standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, okay? So they are, what's the implication there? That they are standing firm in one spirit, that they're standing firm in one mind, and that they are standing firm, striving side by side. That's another proposition because it's linked to that you are standing for, that's the ground. This is what they are doing. This is what the purpose of it is, for the faith of the gospel. Okay, so now you can see that here in verse 27. We already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 propositions. They're not all going to be equal. Some are going to be more dominant and some are going to be subordinate, which means they kind of hang off the same idea. But we have, looks like 8 propositions here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, yep. So now, because we have a sentence that keeps going on, I think we need to break down verse 8 here too, and then we'll really start crunching this out. And not be frightened, not be frightened in what? In anything by your opponents, okay? I am going to break that into a proposition, into 2 separate. I probably don't need to, but this is the means that the frightened could potentially be. This is a clear sign to them of what? Their destruction, but of your salvation, and that salvation from God. So you can see 2 different propositions here. There are 2 statements of saying there are 2 statements that could stand independently. This is a clear sign to them of their destruction. For it has been granted to you, grounding, that for the sake of Christ, okay, wow, this is already getting tough. You should not only believe in him, well, there's for sure, but suffer for his sake. So there for sure is its own proposition. For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, that you should not only believe in him, but also suffer. Okay, so the reason that I did this, and I broke this into 2 different propositions here, is because for the sake of Christ, 2 things should happen. You should believe in him and also suffer for his sake. Okay, so for it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, that's the reason. We could break that down into 2 propositions, but we don't want to get too advanced here with that. Engaged in the same conflict that you saw that I had, and now hear that I still have. There's not 2 propositions here because it's explaining what, you could do an idea explanation, but it just doesn't make sense there. So, and now hear that I still have. Okay, so we have these 4 verses now broken up into propositions, and now we need to connect these statements in ways that make sense. Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that, now here, these 2 words right here are a dead giveaway for this being a purpose statement, okay? So this is an action, this is going to be the purpose. So we're going to connect that, and it's because we have the word or here, it's an alternative. So either one of 2 things are going to happen. He's either going to come and see them, or he's going to be absent, okay? And so we're going to put that as an alternative. Only let your manner of life be worthy of Christ, so that whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you, okay. So we have, let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, so that whether I come and see you or that I may hear of you. We're going to connect this, and we're going to connect these 2. This here is definitely going to be an action purpose. So, so that we can see action purpose, we can see in order that, so that, lest, and we can see the hina, ice, and toe. in the Greek, if, you go that way with Greek, I don't know. That I may hear of you. Let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel, so that I may hear of you. I'm going to delete that, and we're going to come back to that. And here's why. Whether I come and see you or am absent, at least I may hear of you. And I'm going to delete this too, and here's why. I'm going to connect this, that I may hear of you, and this is what he wants to hear of them, that they're standing firm in one spirit, with one mind, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel, and not frightened in anything by your opponents. I'm going to put this as an action manner, not frightened in anything by your opponents. Like the by right there tells us the manner in which something happens. So why would the Philippians potentially be frightened of something? Well, it's because of their opponents. It's these people that are against the gospel and against Christianity going forward. Striving side by side for the gospel and not frightened in anything. Okay. Okay, so now the question is, how does for the faith of the gospel and not frightened in anything, that you're standing firm? Okay, so the idea is standing firm in these four propositions, right? You're standing firm with one mind, striving side by side. This right here is going to be a series because it's a unity issue, that they're in one spirit, one mind, and we're thinking of Ephesians. Is it chapter 4, I believe, where he's talking about one spirit, one baptism, one faith, just this unified church and the unity of what we're doing here. So he wants to hear that they're unified and that they are striving side by side. I'm going to say that's another series here because it's two different things, but they're really pushing toward the progression of the gospel here. They're standing firm in unity, and they're striving side by side for the faith of the gospel. Okay, so that is the okay, yeah, it's a grounding. The reason why they are standing firm in unity here and striving side by side is because for the faith of the gospel to go forward. Now, what's the negative part of that? The negative part of that is that they would not be afraid. So I'm going to put that as a negative positive. Well, actually, probably a positive negative. I'm going to flip these two because the positive is standing firm in unity and striving side by side. Now, striving, I'm going to pull up my Greek here in just a second so we can understand what does he mean by striving. We'll get to that here in just a second. We'll let my accordance pop up. And let's see here. I'm going to widen myself out. We're going to take that. And we're going to say Philippians 1, 20, what are we, 27 through 30, is that right? Okay. Striving, okay, to work together. Sunatheleo, okay? So it's to work together with someone in a struggle, implying opposition or competition. So you can think about it like team members. Think about a football team. Like they all have their positions, but they're all working together for a certain goal. So we have this I don't even know if I can say it right. Sunathleo. That's probably, it sounds good anyway. So I'm just going to go with it. All right, now let's look at that I may hear of you in order that would be a purpose. Only let your manner of life be worthy of the gospel of Christ, so that, whether I come and see you or am absent, I may hear of you. Now, what does he want to hear of them? that they are standing firm, that they're unified, that they're fighting together, that I may hear of you. So whether he comes and sees them or is absent, this is the result that he wants, okay? There is an implied, or I'm absent, there is an implied, so that I may hear of you, okay? That is the implication. Whether I come and see you or I'm absent, so that I might hear of you, with the result that I know how you're doing, how life is being unified there. So only let your manner of life be worthy, so that, again, we are looking at, this is going to be a purpose statement, I think. Let me go back down here, and only let your manner, so that, okay, we're looking at hina, and in the action purpose, yep, so it is the purpose that they are to live a life worthy of Christ, with the purpose that whether Paul comes and sees them, that the gospel is going forward in unity and striving together, and not by fear. Fear is what Paul is trying to avoid in them. This is a sign to them. Who is them? Well, it's the opponents, right? And so we could hook this all together here. This is a clear sign to them of their destruction, but of your salvation, and that from God. So I'm going to say that this is an idea explanation, because he is working out what he means by this. But your salvation, where does it come from? Well, it comes from God. And so he explains that more, because he's relating it to his enemies and their eventual destruction. Now, one thing that has always, I don't know, it'll be interesting to get into the commentaries here in a little bit, because we have, this is a clear sign of their destruction, but of your salvation. Why the word "but" there? I just have never really understood that, and so it's a marker of annotative relation, a possible implication of some contrast. Okay, so maybe "but's" not the right word, but it is a contrast. Like, this is their destruction, but of your salvation. So it's not an alternative day. I suppose it could be an alternative, but it's not. I would say I think it's a negative positive, honestly, because they're going to be destroyed eventually, and we're going to be saved. And so I don't know if "but" is, it's probably the only English word that we could use for that, but it's this contrast that he's talking about. We'll connect this later. For it has been granted to you. So the word "for," that should scream at us right now that this is a ground clause. Remember, a ground clause is an explanation of something. It is not a main point. It is rather an explanation of something that could be a main point. It's been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, that's an, I am going to put another proposition there, because this is like a mini ground, okay? We could put a small g in there, but a mini ground. For it has been granted to you, for the sake of Christ, that you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake, engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had, and now hear that I still have. Okay, so it looks like these three right here, the last part of 29 through 30, are all connected. To suffer, that suffering is connected to being like Paul and the conflict that he has, and that he is still having. So we're going to connect here. Also suffer for his sake, and he's going to explain it. Engaged in the same conflict that you saw that I had, and now hear that I... Okay, do you see the... I'm picking up like the temporal differences here. Saw, that's past tense. Here, that's what's happening now. They saw it in person. They lived through it. They experienced it. They saw how he was persecuted and all that sort of stuff. Philippi is a crazy story about what happened there. You can read about it in Acts 16. But they saw it. But now Paul's in a Roman jail. He's probably on house arrest. But now they can only hear it. They can't see it for themselves. And so we're just going to put these two together. And we're going to make that as a series because it's two ideas that are connected, but they're only serving the purpose of what's going on up here. You should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake. Now, I think that these two verses in 30a and 30b are working out what he means, but also suffer for his sake. Man, you know, if you're in Christ, Paul is saying that you're going to go through the same things that I'm going through, that you've seen me go through, that you're not going to be real well liked by the culture around you, and you know, possibly you're going to be in dire straits like Paul is in jail. So, but also suffer for his sake. Engage in the same conflict you saw, and now here that I have. Okay, I'm going to say that's an idea explanation, okay? Because we could say, but also suffer for his sake. That is, that you're engaged in the same conflict that you saw I had, and now here, of what I'm involved with now. What did I say? Idea explanation? Okay. Okay. Now, we have this right here. Again, this word but right here does make sense because it is a contrast. It is a negative positive. That you should not only, or positive negative I should say, that you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake. Okay, so these things both are true. Both these things are going to be true about the believer. You should believe in him, but you're also going to suffer for him. And so there's a negative and a positive aspect of being a believer. For it has been granted to you that for the sake of Christ, you should not only believe in him. Okay, so it's been granted to you. Let's see what that word granted is talking about. To hand someone over into the control of another person without some reasonable cost, to hand over charizomai, to give favor, forgive. It's rooted in grace. Wow, okay. So Paul is saying here that it has been graced to us, that for the sake of Christ, you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for him. Again, it's this idea that suffering is not something that shows that we're cursed. It rather shows us that we're loved. I mean, this is just nuts. Oh, I love it. For the sake of Christ, you should not only believe in him. Now the question is, what's this relationship here? These two. This is the reason, and this is the action. You should. Okay. I'm going to flip these. Usually it's an action result, but I'm going to flip this. I think that Paul has... No. Okay. Granted to you, that's the action. For the sake of Christ, you should not only believe in him. That is what happens. This is what's been granted to us, that for his sake. Like this is God's grace to us, that we should be doing this. Now, this, I put this as a little g here, even though it's a capital. But think of how massive that is. We could say that it has been granted to you that you should not only believe in him, but also suffer for his sake. And you're like, well, what would the point of that be? Like, that just sounds not fun. But Paul says this little side note. It's been granted to you for the sake of Christ. Why do we believe in him? It's for the sake of Christ. Why do we suffer for him? For the sake of Christ. And sake of Christ means it's for his gospel to go forth, that people would know him, that they would repent of their sins and trust in him. So now we have, this is a clear sign to them of their destruction, and that from God. Well, what is a clear sign of their destruction? That you're standing firm, striving side by side for the faith of the gospel, not frightened in anything by your opponents. Like the fact that you would be unified in your church, and the fact that you're working side by side, like that is a clear sign that God is with you, that they aren't going to win, they aren't going to see the end of the day, but you are, that you're going to be saved, because the church is a weird place in which people who have very different backgrounds are able to get along and have unity and go forward in something. I mean, this is just crazy. So this is a sign of their destruction. All of this is an action and a result, I think. Or, I mean, I suppose it could be an inference. You could say, hey, all of this is going on. Live worthy of the gospel, so that you can be standing firm. Because obviously Paul isn't with us now, but live in a manner of the gospel so that you can stand firm in unity and not frightened in anything. Therefore, that is a clear sign of their destruction and your salvation. This is a clear sign of them, of their destruction, but of your salvation by your opponents. This is. I don't think I know. I'm going to connect all these, but so the result of this, okay, I'm going to say it's an action result. I'm probably wrong. And again, there's probably not a right and wrong. It just is what it is. And this is what's interesting, that this all sounds good, that we're being unified, not frightened. It's a sign that they're going to be destroyed one day in judgment. We're not annihilationists. We do believe that people will have eternal punishment, those that don't know Christ. But it sounds, I mean, all this, 27, 28 sounds like really good. But then 29, he starts entering into this suffering thing. Like, this here seems like we're winning. Suffering doesn't seem like we're winning. But in the gospel, you think about, the first will be last, the last will be first. Think, or blessed are you when you're persecuted and reviled for my name. So you think, like, the way that we win in life is by losing. So therefore, the grounding of all of this is in suffering. Man, that's wicked. That's really, really cool. It's hard to take, but I'm just going to label this here. Second 1, 27 through 30. Okay. And now we're going to show the arcs, because now we're able to kind of see our points here, right? So we could have this all being one point, this being another. I think, however, that this is all going to be 1 point. Verses 27. So we're going to over here say verse 27. Sorry if my camera's going to jump here, and I'm on a different keyboard again, just to make things easier. I'm going to make myself as small as possible. Verse 27. This is live in a worthy manner. And how is this done? This is done by unity in spirit, B, unity in mind, and this is also striving / working together and not frightened any opposition, because opposition can be kind of frightening. So, now if I were preaching this, and if I didn't consult commentaries after this, I would have a pretty good outline there to preach through, that we live worthy in these 4 ways. Unity mind, unity spirit, striving together, not frightened in any opposition. Okay, so now let's look at number 2, and we see that in verse 28. Oh, I guess this is verse 27 through 28b. Now, number 2, we're looking at this little, we're looking at, 28c through, so kind of this thing here. This is a clear sign to them of your salvation, and that from God. We could say verse 28, C through E. Living worthily, I don't like that word, or in unity equals frustration of the enemy's plan. That's not what he wants to see. What would we title this as? 2 results of unity. Frustration of the enemy's plan and assurance of salvation. Now, verse 29, we could say that true in a worthy manner will result in suffering, but the suffering is the way of success. Now, how could we break that down? Well, we could say God has graced us with suffering. So, which also means that we need to recalibrate our understanding of suffering, right? But then also, how about this? Has been granted to you, this is for the sake of Christ, okay? C, grace equals suffering for his sake, and suffering, suffering like Paul. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say all this necessarily in a message. I would want to round that out and make it more, let me move my thing here, to make it more palatable, but you can see that, man, we've really got, we got an outline here, and this is probably what I'll take in mind now as I start hitting the commentaries. And so, yeah, I think we've got everything there that we need. If you have any questions on this, again, I'm going to be hoping to, in the next month or so, be posting videos training on basics on how to do this. Oh, that's really fun, isn't it, to do all that? Woo! Training on how to do the basics so that you can do this on your own as well. So if you have any questions, let me know. Other than that, thanks for joining me in this edition of Bible Deep Dives.